Hi, I'm so glad you're here. I'm Alicia Willoughby and I'm an orthopedic and women's health physical therapist, and this video is going to show you how to screen your own postpartum abdominals so that you can answer some of the most common questions that I get working with postpartum women. Those questions are, how do I know if a core exercise is right for me? How do I know if my abdominals after giving birth are ready to go back to the exercises I used to do before having a baby? And how do I know if the exercises that I'm already doing are helping me get to my goals, or are they maintaining a problem or causing one? So when we look at postpartum abdominals, there are 4 things that we look for. The first thing we do before we even look at those 4 things is we're going to get an idea of how do you engage your core. When I say to somebody's brain, engage your core, I see a variety of responses, and we want to know what is your default response. If you are doing a response that is not ideal, that alone might be the reason why you're not getting the results you want from your core exercises. After we look at that, we're going to look at two specific exercises to check. 1, does my spine move when I do that exercise? 2, how does the shape of my abdomen change when I do that exercise? 3, what does the midline of my abdominal tissue feel like? If I have a diastasis, which most women have at least a minor one, what does the midline of my abdomen feel like when I'm doing that exercise? And then 4, what core muscles are actually being engaged when I do doing an exercise? Am I feeling my lower and deep abdominals turn on that I want? Or are they not yet connected? So therefore they're not turning on reflexively when I'm doing an exercise. So I'm going to show you these 4 steps on my body. I encourage you to follow along and then check on your body. If you have a hard time feeling this with your own fingertips, then I encourage you to either set up a camera or have someone videotape you going through these steps so you also can get a visual of what your abdomen is doing. I can't tell you how many times I have had a woman demonstrate an exercise to me, and once I videotape her abs for her and then show her, she is blown away at what was actually happening when she was doing an exercise that she thought was beneficial. All right, so let's get started. It's important that you do this on your skin, so move your clothes out of the way. The first thing we're going to do is here at rest is we're going to take notice of what the shape of our abdomen is. So running your hands over your belly, just notice what the shape is here. The next thing we're going to do is look at your core default strategy. When I tell my brain to engage my core, there's a variety of responses, so I'm going to show you what you might notice. When I tell my brain to engage my core, does my spine and pelvis tuck? Does my back flatten down into the mat or down into my hand? Or when I engage my core, does my spine not move? I can still fit my hand under my back. When I engage my core, does my belly push up towards the ceiling, creating a dome or a bulge or a pooch? Or when I engage my core, is my belly drawn in, slightly away from my pants? When I engage my core, do I do it on an inhale or possibly a breath hold? Or when I engage my core, do I do it on an exhale? When I engage my core, do I generate pressure down into my abdomen and pelvis and pelvic floor, possibly feeling pressure all the way at my vagina? Or when I engage my core, is there a depressurization or a lightness that occurs in my pelvis and abdomen? Next, we're going to look at those 4 components in 2 different exercises. The first one is in a crunch, so put one hand behind your head and one hand underneath your lower back. When I do a crunch, does my spine move? Does my back push into my hand? Or when I do a crunch, does my spine not move? No pressure is coming into my hand. When I do a crunch, what happens to the shape of my abdomen? Does it bulge up towards the ceiling or pooch or dome? Or when I do a crunch, does my belly not push up towards the ceiling? Coming to the midline of your abdomen, when I do a crunch, does the midline here feel deep and squishy? I can sink my fingers down in between my muscles. Or when I do a crunch, is the midline shallow and I can feel muscles underneath my fingertips being activated? Next, bring your fingertips to the top of your hips. Move a little bit down and in. It should feel squishy here at rest. When I do a crunch, does the area under my fingertips feel deep and squishy? I do not feel muscle. Or when I do a crunch, is this area shallow and firm? The next exercise we're going to look at is both legs being lifted off of the ground. So when I lift both legs up, does my spine change shape? Does it smush into my hand or lift up towards the ceiling? Or when I lift both legs, does my spine not change shape? When I lift both legs, does my belly change shape? Does my belly pooch up towards the ceiling or dome? Or when I lift both legs, does my abdomen not change shape? Does not pooch up towards the ceiling? Coming back to the midline of my abdomen here, when I lift both legs, does my midline feel deep and squishy? I can sink my fingers down in between my muscle. Or when I lift both legs, does my midline feel shallow and firm? Coming back to the tops of the hips, coming a little bit down and in. When I lift both legs, does this area feel deep and squishy? Or when I lift both legs, does the area under my fingertips feel shallow and I can feel muscle being activated there? So when you can check yourself for those 4 components of abdominals, then you know whether an exercise is safe for you. So ideally, your answers would be, no, my spine does not move. My abdomen gets drawn in. It does not pooch up towards the ceiling. The midline of my body, or my diastasis, does not feel really deep. And then my lower abdominals feel firm and engaged under my fingertips. They do not feel soft and deep. If a core exercise does not satisfy each one of these components, then that means that it's not appropriate for you at this time, and that you need some more guidance for your brain to reconnect with your postpartum abdominals so that you can do core exercises that are actually going to benefit you and get you stronger, instead of lead you down a path of maintaining an abdominal separation, maintaining a belly that still looks poochy, not gaining you the strength that you're so desperately looking for, or causing or maintaining any pelvic floor dysfunction such as pain and leaking. So I hope that was helpful for you, and I really encourage you to take this information to your own body and check to see how your abdominals are doing and what core exercises are right for you.